Real though. There's still many things I have yet to accomplish in this life. I'm just a youngster who has only recently turned 70. As long as my body holds out, I want to enjoy killing time because I'm only 70 years old. LOL. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 105, season 3 of the Black Cat Report. My name is Gil, and joining me here tomorrow, my best friend since before the beginning of the past, Joey.
Hello, I've also been here since yesterday. So, do with that what you will.
Good deal. Well, we've got a lot of updates and news that, for once, I actually remembered to type out. So we should be able to run through them pretty fast. Our Patreon is almost up and should be live by Friday morning. So if you want to join up and help support this show, be on the lookout for a special announcement delivered to your ears via whatever platform you're listening to this episode on right now. And for everyone who tuned in, called in, and submitted your theories for last Saturday's conspiracy-themed live stream of beer, booze, and boogeymen, thank you. According to this letter I received from my lawyer, we single-handedly delayed the New World Order's plans by over an hour. And also...
Barely.
Oh, I see it. There's an addition here. Also, we managed to help a minimum wage intern at the NSA get just enough overtime to afford rent this month. And all of that on the 4th of July weekend. There's nothing more patriotic than that, folks. I'm just going to say that.
And that's what we always do. We're always there to help the intern, especially at the NSA. They need their interns. They
honestly
need their interns because
they know me better than I do myself, so.
You and Google. Google knows you better too. Facebook as well.
Google. Well, Joey,
yes.
That out of the way. With that said, I must say that while all the listeners gave some, one listener gave all. One brave listener from our very own hometown of BCR heard the call to arms, and without hesitation, this listener, through all the smoke of fireworks and rivers of beer, single-handedly led the charge card towards our dreams. And that man's social handle is Harry Carey. So, Harry, we thank you.
We thank you.
You, my friend, will be getting full access to all the perks, merch, and mayhem we're offering to our freshly announced campaign for Beer, Booze, and Boogeymen. For anyone that hasn't heard about this yet, here's the quick rundown. The whole B3 crew, Damien, Kristen, Joey, and myself, have been hard at work pulling strings behind the scenes in order to take a trip this September 28th to where we've gained early access to investigate and spend the night in one of the most notoriously haunted homes in one of Kentucky's most notoriously paranormal towns. Hopkinsville, the birthplace of Edgar Cayce and the location of the very famous Hopkinsville Goblins incident, just to name a few. Now, this house, while a well-known hotspot for local residents, is nearly unheard of in the paranormal community so far. And with that said, only a handful of outside investigators have ever gone in, with one left so taken back by what happened to them that they bought the damn house and will soon be opening up for paranormal tourists to reserve a room for the night. But right now, we have an opportunity to gain early, exclusive access to the entire property, and we're bringing you with us. You see, we designed this campaign to offer you something that might be a first in the paranormal community. On the night of the investigation, donors will be guiding, deciding, and directing the investigation in real time. From what dark room Joey gets voted to be blindfolded and sitting alone while he's doing the Estes method, to what questions are being asked and the room we're focusing on. Or, if you decide, you can even have me sleep in the basement all night. It's your call. Yeah, you don't have to. But the only way that we can get you that kind of access, is if we can get access. So all of our tiers are designed to bring you closer to the investigation, the closer you bring us to the investigation. And while everyone who donates will get access to a private live stream with community chat and a multicam view of the entire investigation, most of the major rooms in the house, the only way I won't be bitter about being alone, sleeping in the damp, dark basement of a haunted house, just listening to the spiders crawl along the creaking pipes all night long. Just lying there, thinking about how you're sitting in the comfort of your own home, probably like eating ice cream in bed while getting all the benefits of an investigation with none of the dust or the downsides at all, is if folks who really, really went above and beyond were the ones who asked me to do it. They're the ones who made the nightmare possible, and for that, I gotta thank them for even letting it happen. So, can't read the page because my printer's running out of ink. Okay. It's gonna happen every page at the exact spot. So, so if going on an investigation is your thing, or maybe you just want revenge for the Flat Earth episode, or I don't know, you really just want to direct your own Scooby-Doo themed Sims movie, then go to ghost.beer/support to learn more, or just click the link at the top of today's show notes. And as a side note, when we launch the BCR Patreon this Friday morning, our patrons will be gaining access to all the discovery and the debauchery as well. We'll be working out the whole tier system trade-off with that. But enough about all that, Joey. I don't know why you keep going on. Let's get into this dang show. Now,
I don't know either.
Now, as some of you may know, this month is dedicated to time travel, and there are two reasons why it's being released just a little bit late. The main reason is because I couldn't figure out how to read the assembly manual for the IKEA time machine I bought. And the other reason is, oh my God, if every single episode of Black Cat Report was somehow smushed together and made into a physical person, the result would literally be the person we're covering today, minus serial killers in the post office. Now, thought that was the footer. It's another line. Now, by the end of this two-part series, we'll have touched on Oh, that's right. Okay. I was like, did I print off the wrong version of the script? Shit. I thought I wrote something before that, but I remembered I deleted it. Now, by the end of this two-part series, we'll have touched on dinosaurs, Venus, Bill Gates, the Akashic Records, government cover-ups, ghosts, teleportation, giants, soul assimilation, ancient water, UFOs, near-death experiences, doomsday, 5D reality, Earth, before the moon, Jesus, the multiverse, Atlantis, AI, out-of-body experiences, the Vatican, a weight loss secret you should not try at home, the birth of the human race, the creation of the universe, Noah's Ark, Earth, after the moon, aliens, possession, multi-stage death, the meaning of life during, after, and before, and last but not least, the very topic this episode was supposed to just be about when I picked him, time travel. But
dun, 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 dun.
to get there and come back so we can go on about that later, then right now we'll have to organize. See, same part of the page that I stopped last time. We'll have to organize events. Where'd it go? But to get there and come back so we can go on about that later, then right now we'll have to organize the events of a time traveler's life into a coherent story, which, as I discovered over the weekend, is only slightly easier than building your own IKEA time machine. It's a timeless problem, but I think I may have discovered a solution. by mirroring the effects of time travel with how I wrote these episodes. Well, it doesn't make any sense right now, probably. When we come back later, it will. So, Joey, are you ready?
Tell me.
You ready? You sure?
I'm ready. I could be. I don't know. I'm as ready as I'm ever going to be. Ask me in about, I'd say 2.5 hours, I guess, at the end, and I can tell you if I'm ready right now.
The sweat, even though my studio is like 150 degrees. My studio is so fucking hot right now, but the actual sweat was I was waiting for you to give your answer and see if you were actually ready. Now, like I said, sorry, I need a sip. Do you see?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a little glistening.
I look like a dolphin jumping out of the water. Got a nose the size of one, too. Now, like I said up top, the focus of this series will be on one incredibly fascinating man who almost every time I thought for certain he was full of BS, I would find either direct proof he wasn't or recent scientific breakthroughs that were backing up his decades-old claims. Now, as for the verification I found, it'll be listed down in the show notes, along with links to his interviews that I translated to build these episodes around. As for the man, it's required no less than 5 disclaimers before an introduction. His name is Tsuruhiko Kiuchi, who, on June 4th of this year, 2024, wrote the blog post I quoted earlier about turning 70. And over his long life, some of his achievements have included things like directly influencing a current plan by world governments to use nuclear bombs, authoring multiple bestsellers about life, inventing a machine that turns toxic waste, pollution, and chemical weapons into highly pure and highly valuable carbon, hydrogen, and naphtha, all without anyone needing to power it, as well as inspiring the plot behind 2 major Hollywood movies, one of which I can almost guarantee you've seen. And while all of that is true, I've checked it, got references, it'll be in the show notes. Kiuchi is not a scientist or a policy expert or even a politician. He's pretty much just an average dude who maybe sometimes is an occasional time traveler.
Maybe. Just a little bit.
After reading this dude's bio and obsessing over him, my skepticism's getting pushed to the side. But born in 1954 in same spot on the page. Born in 1954 in Kumitown, Japan, Kiuchi grew up spending his summers swimming and playing with his older sisters and brother in the rivers that flow along the feet of the region's rural mountains. By 5th grade, he was always waiting at the door to the astronomy club the moment the last bell rang. And for the most part, his childhood was average, and honestly, his home life seemed healthy. Typical person, right?
Yeah.
Well, his home life was healthy. I don't know if that's typical, but and for the sake of the story. Well, by the time
for our episodes, it's very healthy.
Yeah, straight up. Well, we've never dealt with time travelers before. We don't know if this is normal. Maybe all time travelers actually have a healthy childhood, and that's the difference between a serial killer.
That's how
and
they
a
become time travelers. Yeah, that's how they become it. Maybe they go back and fix it.
You know what? I'm not going to let 3-year-old me butcher that cow while a pig in the background is screwing a fence post. I don't know if that was good for me.
Yeah, I think I'm going to learn from that.
As he takes off his Richard Nixon mask and his...
Puts away his pocket knife he's about to shank the person with.
It's a prop pocket knife that actually doesn't shank anybody, and he just does that. They look down, they're like, "Oh God!" And they're like, "Wait a second!" And then he actually comes in. Or no, he just pulls out a gun and shoots them. It's like boom.
Yeah.
He's like, "God,
he
something
just appears
really
with the
fucked
gun.
me up in my childhood."
He appears with the gun. Damn, I don't even know what's going on anymore.
the other version of the time travel him comes back and just shoots the guy.
Yeah.
And they just high five. Both warp out.
That one needed to die.
Yeah. You know, bullets are cheap. If you're a time traveler. That's what I always say. You only need one. You just keep going back and getting it. Well.
Yeah, exactly.
By the time he reached his early 20s, he had enlisted in Japan's Air Self-Defense Force. And he did all this with the hopes... Start over. By the time he reached his early 20s, he had enlisted in Japan's Air Self-Defense Force with the hopes of being a jet pilot. And in no time, he became a flight dispatcher at the Hiraku Air Base. In total, the entire department, this is so sad, the entire department he was assigned to only had 6 people on staff who were forced to keep the tower operating 24/7 with a minimum of 2 people on each shift.
So that's 3 shifts. If you're taking 12-hour shifts, you have 1 12-hour shift off. Right? Well, I guess they're splitting.
It was fucked, basically. It was inherently...
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah.
That's when, traffic in and out of, at this time, because this is the 70s in Japan, I don't know if you remember how close that is to an area that, Japan was just forced to become allies with and label all of its military strictly for self-defense.
Defense force, yeah.
Yeah, well, they were busy.
They allied
sometimes.
with us. They allied with us. No big deal.
Yeah, that's how that...
Forcibly.
Once we learn the secrets of time travel, that's how that happened. But, well, yeah. So, like it would for anyone, the lack of staffing, the demanding schedule, and the constant stress of knowing that at any slight mistake he might make, he might kill... that again. Like it would for anyone, the lack of staffing, demanding schedule, and the constant stress of knowing any slight mistake he makes maybe kills an entire plane full of people.
Yeah.
That's kind of like traffic control is like one of those jobs where it's, especially back then, bro. Like, we're talking in 1976.
You have to be on it. You have to be on it all times, all day. You cannot let it down.
If
you
your
do,
binoculars are foggy, a war might break out. Like, some fucked up shit's gonna happen, right? Like, and so like
your
he's
radar
up there,
gets a tiny bit behind.
Yeah. It's fucked. It's like, I thought that was radar. Turned out it was Pong. Oh no. 9/11.
I should stop. I should stop playing games while I'm at work. Jeez.
That's how 9/11 happened.
Pong.
Oh, well, like I said, naturally started to get to him. Who, for 2 years, started to get to him. Naturally, it started to get to Kiuchi, who, for 2 years, was living in a constant state of exhaustion before finally, in 1976, when he was 22 years old, he collapsed to the floor with an overwhelming pain in his abdomen. Shit caught up to him. That's never good. No.
Yeah, that's never good.
No. Dude's 22 years old. That's how fucked this was.
Yeah. And to be fair, like, we talk about the culture in Japan now, it's same. They don't. People are killing themselves, and just because they worked way, way too hard. We think in the United States we work hard. No, we do not work hard compared to their culture and the lifestyle they leave.
People that come to the United States works hard. That's the American.
Yes, correct.
We have the American dream, but then there's actually the American secret, right? So, like, you're only dreaming if you're asleep, but during the day, you're managing. And and for all those folks coming over here to dream, woo,
perchance to dream.
Your kids will know. That's all I'm saying. Well,
hey, isn't that what it's all for?
Life fucks. Scum fuck.
Sure.
That's a quote. I don't, if anybody knows what I just quoted there and didn't Google it, hit me up. We could totally be best friends and like maybe set up a PlayStation 5 like online Game Pass thing and we could play online together or something. That'd be cool. Anyways,
Are you trying to replace me?
I'm just saying you work a lot, okay? I get lonely. No.
Okay, that's fine. I get it.
As he's dialing in the time on his time machine, like, I'm gonna fix this, I swear.
Beep boop 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 boop.
Yeah. So, overwhelming pain in his abdomen. His stomach was squeezing and pulling itself, like the feeling of cramps if they were being tied into a knot inside of you. As if that wasn't enough, he had immediately collapsed on the fucking ground, right? And was twisting and writhing and just turning in fucking agony. The blood drained out of his head and the world went black. He was still conscious. He was still awake. He was awake He's going to be awake through much worse here in a moment. He was awake as he should have fucking blacked out, and the only thing on his body that blacked out was his fucking eyes. So now he's blind, freaking the fuck out in severe agony with his stomach just learning to breakdance or something.
No.
This is gonna get really fucking bad.
Poor guy.
So he was in pain. He was struggling. So while he's blind and in pain, he was struggling to yell for help, but was barely able to make a gasp because he was in such severe fucking pain. But luckily, and god damn it, again, time traveler shit, there's a lot of lucky breaks here. Luckily, one of the staff members, one of the two staff members who were on shift, happened to be walking by. I'm assuming he must have passed out next to the bathroom and they just finally, after 9 hours, got to go pee or something. But they finally, they were randomly walking by the area and they saw him collapsed and they immediately were like, oh, fucking shit, and like ran up to him and rushed him, right, to the nearest hospital. An obstetrician's hospital. A baby hospital.
Yeah. Why? I guess that's the closest one.
It was the like, dudes like might be dying, so that totally, I'm not gonna blame them for that. But in hindsight, again, I started this episode with his blog post from a month ago when he's 70. He gets through it, so spoiler.
It kind of, I bet they were really confused when they brought in his equipment for work just so he could work while he's in the bed. Well, you still got 6 more hours on your shift, so.
Hey, buddy, hope you don't mind if I move this. It's like, beep. And they just unplug the fucking pulse and respiratory machine and move it out of the way. And they're just like, I just need this outlet for a little bit. Hey, man. Hey, going to the beach this weekend. I really appreciate you doing this for me. You take care, bud.
Yeah, I took my PTO for this week, so sorry.
Hey, man. My pass out time off. Well, like I said, he got rushed to an obstetrician's hospital. Closest option, I understand, but again, hindsight.
I mean, yeah.
Well, after a few x-rays, the doctor, who didn't even have the right equipment needed to figure out what was going on, told Kiuchi, I couldn't even possibly tell you what the hell's going on, and then handed him some meds and sent him home for the rest of the night.
He basically said, You're
sorry,
fucked up.
bud.
You're fucked up. Good luck.
He's like, dude, you realize my x-ray machine's like the size of your hand, right? Like, it's going to take all fucking night. You might as well just drive to Tokyo. What the fuck, bro? Like,
yeah, he's like, I'm on the last hour of my 12-hour shift. I gotta go home.
See, we only have 1.5 doctors. The other half is the person who comes in when my wife yells at me and I need to get away. So, like, I really got to get home and rest before that happens.
Our other doctor is a baby, so baby hospital. So
baby doctor.
Take your chances with that one. I don't know.
Yeah. Whew. Well, spoiler. The pain didn't quit. And as the hours passed deeper into the night, Kiuchi quickly descended into one of the most horrifying experiences I have ever heard of. I'm not gonna lie, and this sounds like an exaggeration. This shit makes dying of the bubonic plague sound like a wet dream. This is bad. This is fucking bad, dude.
Yeah.
Well, while he was alone in his home, he began having coughing fits. Each time more intense until they became uncontrollable. And that caused him to start gagging. Over and over.
That's the worst thing.
Again, you got to just picture this as like a train that was stopped that's just slowly fucking picking up speed. This shit just starts accelerating and compounding, right? So at first, it was everything or anything that he had eaten a few hours earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then it was stomach acid, which he soon started choking on because it was coming up between his gasps for air between coughing and throwing up. It was like, like, and so the acid's now flipping back and going into the top of his lungs. And that's obviously fucking him up. And he's fighting for air. He's throwing up. He's coughing fucking violently, right? Coughing hard enough and frequently enough that he's literally throwing up, right?
Yeah, it's not good.
And then the vomiting sped up. And the rapid coughs
it could do
sped up. Until eventually, his stomach acid was replaced with bile. You know, the shit from your lower fucking intestine.
Mm-hmm.
Or sorry, I think it's
you have nothing
it's from
left.
your big intestine. It's kind of like the super strong acid that will
intestine.
really... Yeah. So that started coming up, which all this is burning his esophagus. Not going to make the coughing any better, right? Everything is fucking accelerating. And then finally, globs of dark blood. And while all of that was going on, there was a symphony backing it up from the place where things usually just go out, right? And while all of that was going on, there was a symphony playing in the background, backing it up from the place that things usually just go out. So we have something going on where things just go in and something going on where things just go out. Only the place where things just go out was twice as worse, but mostly in reverse. From shit to bile to anything else that could have been there to diarrhea made of blood only, just straight up shitting streams of blood. He's in bed, just wallowing in fucking pain while all of these body fluids are just spreading around him. This is...
That's so disgusting. And poor guy.
Can you just picture like a view of if you were like a fly on the ceiling looking down at this, like it was that scene from Trainspotting, only actually fucking real and way the fuck worse? This is going on for hours, and we're about to hear.
If you're a fly,
proof that it went on.
You're like poop, hell yeah, poop, hell yeah.
The fly, and then the blood comes out, and they're like, "Ooh, yeah, I don't do blood. I don't do blood.
I'm away, buzz away." Yep.
Faba beans. Dude.
Yum.
So there's blood coming out of his mouth, and there's blood. Literally squirting out of his ass, right? And at the same time, he was pissing himself. But honestly, that was like the least of his concerns at that moment.
That's probably the one thing he's like, yes, thank God.
I'm assuming naturally his eyes were watering and I don't know, his ears were running blood or something at this point. Every hole that could possibly have shit coming out of it, specifically liquids coming out of it, it was coming out of it like a fucking fire hose, right? And this continued on for hours until... Oh, this is bad. Until rolling in the bed became too painful, as his nerves were starting to press against his bones.
Ugh.
Between when he went to the doctor, right, the first time,
yeah,
and then the hospital he's about to be rushed to, Tsuruhiko Kiuchi was recorded to have lost 88 pounds. That's how much fucking liquid came out of his body that night. In 12 hours, he lost 88 pounds. Like, the fat from his fucking body.
All gone.
Everything was coming the fuck out of him. And this is recorded. This is the shit that when I was reading his story,
ridiculous.
I was like, this is fucking bullshit. No, it's real. This is some of the most insane shit we're going to be covering is real.
I would imagine that he probably, if I can guess the idea, he's probably about like 150 pounds, 150 pounds.
Let's see, 22-year-old Japanese man in 1976. Well, there was that sale on rice in 75, and a lot of their moms kind of stocked up and then didn't know what to do with it after the next sale, so they gave it to their sons. So, yeah, it was 155. 155 makes sense, yeah.
That's just a guesstimate, thinking about, especially losing 88 pounds. Like, he couldn't have been like 120 because then he's only 40. He's only 30-something pounds. So I imagine he would be in the 150 range to lose 88 and still be alive. Because, there's just no way you can survive. You can survive at 70 to 80 pounds.
There's a lot of things this man's not supposed to survive that are coming up.
True.
Not, let alone all of this shit so far.
Oh, yeah. Literally all of this shit.
This motherfucker reached that point in pain. The right syncopation between coughing and just body compulsions and gasping for air, he was not able to fucking pass out and was just awake for all of the... Most other folks would have passed the fuck out, right? Or if it was any other way, honestly, you would have passed the fuck out and just fucking, drowned in your own vomit, piss, diarrhea, blood. Like, that would have been it.
Yeah.
It would have just been a
More
fucking
people would have died. Yeah.
horror scene to walk into, right? But no, he stayed awake and was alive. All this shit. Commenting later about how he was kind of fuzzy-headed. And it's like, well, I fucking bet you were. Could you imagine the headache? Like, if I don't have a glass of water all day, I'm like, and I'm like, I'm dying. Could you imagine how fucking horrible of a headache there is in the background? All the... everything about this is like, oh my god.
It almost sounds like when I eat pineapple.
It's a little like that. Yeah, it's not quite as bad. It's not quite as bad, but it's pretty close.
As when I eat pineapple. Yeah, it's not bad. Not as bad.
Yeah. Bros. Do they invent air conditioners that
I'm sad for this
don't
guy.
get picked up on microphones yet? Because I need one. This is why we're starting a new
silent air conditioner.
So
this
Gil
is whatever.
doesn't have a fucking heat stroke in the middle of an episode.
Yeah.
You're never gonna
almost
know.
puking
Are
and
we just
pissing
late
himself.
because we're still researching, or did Gil die during the middle of recording from a heat stroke? Who knows? Find out Thursday, maybe.
We'll have one of those Sarah McLachlan things. In the arms of an angel.
Joey's just watching me
Gil's
recreate
face.
everything that just happened to Kiuchi.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
he's still alive.
Like I said, so he was recorded. Wade when he went into the obstetrician's office. Documented.
Baby doctor.
Ended up in a hospital the next fucking day. He's like, all right, we're going to have to put like 4 of these scales together, but it should still work. No, but his body was physically pushing every liquid imaginable out of him as fast as possible from anywhere it could. The nerve pain he was feeling was from having to become His body was physically pushing every liquid imaginable out of him as fast as possible from anywhere it could. And the nerve pain he was feeling from having become almost literally skin and bones.
Yeah.
Well, when talking about this night, he always brings up how the bed was too painful for his butt, which caused him to jump up. But the other parts would force him to collapse. The other pains and the other reactions would force him to collapse back down on the bed, which would force him back onto the bed, which would force it. And he was This is so fucking horrible, dude.
He probably had no butt anymore too. His like butt must have been gone too because he lost all his weight. Yeah, so that's
he straight up didn't.
He lost his butt. He literally lost his ass.
Yeah. And like when I tried my best to look into the condition.
He pooped out his ass.
Yeah, and threw it up and fucking I don't know. Yeah. So from the little that I could find referenced about this condition, that wasn't directly one of the I don't know, a bunch of Japanese articles about this dude, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's basically it. Like, motherfuckers look like 4,000-year-old preserved mummies before they die.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
they all die.
It's real bad, dude.
Yeah.
Well, after he got why did I write it? Well, when he finally got discovered by someone and was taken when he finally got discovered by somebody and was taken by ambulance to an actual hospital, he was diagnosed with superior mesenteric artery duodenal obstruction. That's the only time I'm going to read that. And it's a syndrome which is so rare that at the time, worldwide, there had only ever been 120 cases ever recorded, and it has, at least amongst the 120, 100% fatality rate.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah. And Kiuchi, around hearing that time of his diagnosis, was also given an estimated 7 days left to live. Which honestly,
he must have watched that Ring.
After what he went through, not too bad. You know?
Oh, I mean, 7 days, you know,
I would have died in 7 minutes of that. I am like no tolerance for that kind of shit.
Everything gone. Like you're pretty much nothing left. But yeah.
And this is still
he must have gotten
like,
that video.
The Ring?
Yes. 7 days.
That's actually
the doctor's
him
like
out of the
TV.
doctor.
The doctor leaves the room and he's like, I think you have 7 days. And he's like, but I actually have to show you this video that it's new, just came out.
Pretty sure you got 7 days. Hey, did you? Yes. Somebody's calling. Somebody's calling. Hello.
Yes. What's calling? Hello.
Well, the days passed. His parents. Sorry, actually, get a drink before the session.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait till you're done Googling, sir.
Mm-hmm. You're good.
The days passed. His parents sleeping by his side at night and speaking to him all day. While they waited. You good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I
have this. The script that I'm reading is right next to where you're at on the screen. I see you. I see all.
Mm-hmm.
No, I just have really bad ADHD. The days passed. His parents sleeping by his side at night and speaking to him all day while they waited, hoping for a change as his body was quite literally still deteriorating in front of everyone. IVs in him, all the stuff going on. It just slowed everything down, right? And
yeah.
From the very little I could find about this syndrome, what happens is there's a specific kind of rupture of an artery in your stomach, right?
Yeah.
Which sounds bad already. Anybody with an ulcer, I've never had one, but
they are.
I'm gonna assume, based off of how I've heard anybody with one speak about it, horribly fucking painful. So that
not fun.
but multiply it by the length of the largest artery that wraps around your stomach. That's splitting open into your stomach. Well, what then happens is it's almost like the hand of God just kind of puts his arm down your throat and starts trying to pull all of your organs through that slit that's now open to your full-on insides into your stomach and up into your throat and out of you. It's like you're being pulled inside out through your stomach.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why he
I
wasn't
heard that's a
coughing
new
at
diet
this
fad,
point.
actually. Yeah.
It's the one you're not supposed to try at home. But that's why his coughing and shit at this point was stopped. Because his organs were literally blocking the bottom of his esophagus.
Small
it
blessings,
stopped
I guess.
because his organs clogged it.
Yeah, that's little blessings because he's not coughing now, but in horrifying pain.
That's where all the blood was coming from. That's where all...
Mm-hmm.
This is... Your
I imagine they probably didn't
now...
give him... Yeah, I imagine they didn't give him any pain medicine either because they feel he would have probably just died. They probably just let it happen because it would have thinned his blood as well. Maybe.
I have no fucking
I'm not
clue.
a doctor.
I just know that the bleeding out of his mouth and ass stopped because his organs were in his stomach. Like, this is so fucked. And you got to think too. Oh, dude, I didn't even bring that part up. The initial part with the abdominal pain, or the abdominal snowman pain.
It was abdominal pain.
The abdominal pain. So he went from being like kind of like a slim, like kind of fit, like Air Force and like 22 years old, shit like that. He was in decent shape, right?
Yeah.
Well, the night that he had collapsed over in pain, when he was found, his stomach had like distended. It basically, from the descriptions that I went through and like kind of like summarized around all the shit, like it looks like when somebody takes a balloon and they stick it out of their shirt and they're like, "Look at me!" Like, but it was literally his fucking stomach.
It like blew up.
Yes.
Like when you when you starve.
Shit was like the pressure and everything was like building up inside of him and trying to come into his fucking stomach. The tear, the ruptured artery or whatever hadn't split large enough while everything was trying to push into it. So all of his shit in his body was trying to push down, causing his stomach to bellow out like he had a fucking basketball inserted under his skin. Like, and it was like obviously like something's horribly fucking wrong. Like, yeah. So this is so bad, dude.
Yeah, well, I don't even know what to say. Poor guy.
Where was I? The days passed. The days passed. His parents sleeping by his side at night and speaking to him all day long while they waited, hoping for a change as his body was deteriorating in front of everyone. After 7 days of this deterioration, as his body physically rejected any attempt to recover, Kiuchi laid motionless, trapped in an existence of nothing more than a mind in pain. Too weak to sleep, he laid there, listening. The doctor was explaining to his mother and father that there were no measurements left of hope. It was a conversation with nothing new or unexpected, just another complete darkness was around him. There was no transition. He knew he was on all fours, wrist deep in the mud, with the middle of his last thought fleeting as he was straining to see anything besides the color black hugging his eyes. With no reference, he moved through the feeling of crawling on his hands and knees, only now assuming he was even turning his head, moving forward as each step sunk into the cold mud with pitch black screaming in his face. Kiuchi continued, blindly following the sensations of rice paddies below him until he discovered a faint glow, either imagined or real. Deeper into an unknown distance he crept carefully towards this vague suggestion, finally reaching a point where he could see past any doubt the definition of a shape, an opening gradually forming as he neared. There was a heavy, dull glow saturating the world he found when he finally reached the end, a dim light with no source, like the last moments before the sun sets. There was no color, just an ambiance in black and white. He turned around to see what he had just been crawling through. It was a muddy, cave-like tunnel. He was standing now in a rolling, treeless landscape of grassy hills. The feeling of cool, wet grass between his toes gave relief as he began walking, just moving forward with no sense of time until he eventually came across the glow of a campfire far in the distance. As he approached, he found a black and white river blocking him from reaching the fire. There was a circle of yellowish light in the direction of the campfire, almost like a yellow spotlight illuminating a colorless surrounding. Kiuchi began walking along the riverbank, searching through the thick reeds for anything he could use to cross the slow-flowing waters. Eventually, he found a broken boat with one oar. He threw the boat into the river and climbed on, and started paddling with his hands. He did this frantically, as much as he could, feeling compelled to keep going towards the campfire, while his boat was being pulled sideways downstream. But while this happened, he noticed the yellow light stayed directly on the other side of the river, like the afterburn of a camera flash when you blink. It was following his sight, but consistently positioned in the opposite bank. It was following his sight, but consistently positioned on the opposite bank. After reaching the other side, he collapsed in exhaustion. Lying face first in the grass, trying to catch his breath, when he raised his head, he could see the campfire was only about 50 feet away. There were 4 or 5 silhouettes, shadows, of people warping like heat waves above hot asphalt. One of them began moving towards him, their definition coming into view as they grew closer. It was a middle-aged woman, dressed in the traditional Japanese mourning attire for someone grieving in the days after a funeral. She asked him, "What brings you here?" Kiuchi, clueless as the rest of us.
What the fuck is he coming here for?
Yeah, Kiuchi, clueless as to where here even was, couldn't find the words to respond. Sorry. She asked, "What brings you here?" Kiuchi, clueless as to where here even was, couldn't find words to respond. She soon led him to the campfire, where an old man, a young man, and 2 older women were standing. As Kiuchi looked at them, he realized the young man was his cousin, who died in a bulldozer accident years earlier, and the old man was Kiuchi's late uncle, who died a few years later. Immediately, they began chatting, happy to reunite and talk about their relatives, until eventually the same woman that brought him to the fire beckoned for him to follow her. She led him towards a grassy hill, and they casually walked up it until they reached the top. From where they stood, Kiuchi saw a massive field of colorful flowers sloping up to the next hill, and a large golden light shining down from the sky. She led him down the hill and into the flowers, where a ball of golden light descended from the sky, leaving tracers behind it and stopping directly in front of his face. In the light was a woman's face, now looking deeply into his. There was a pause. Then the light left, and Kiuchi continued to follow the older woman as she turned around and started walking back. Looking around as he followed her, he soon realized that the woman had disappeared. Leaving a deep panic to sink in, he frantically began walking faster through the flowers, trying to now, sorry. Looking around as he followed her, he soon realized that the woman had disappeared, leaving a deep panic to sink in. He frantically began walking faster through the flowers, trying to now he was standing in the hospital, looking at himself lying in a bed while doctors and nurses were scrambling, doing everything they could to resuscitate him. Shouting to each other over the wailing cries of his father standing in the corner of the room. There was no transition, only 2 moments, as he watched the staff attempting to massage his heart and saw nurses quickly passing through him to change positions. It dawned on him that no one could see him standing there. As he stood right behind them, that no one could see him standing there behind them while they worked on his body. At that moment, 2 thoughts came to him. He wanted to live, and the fact that he was back must mean he was going to survive.
Mm-hmm.
Looking over at his dad, he tried telling him, desperately, that he'd be okay. Telling him not to worry, but there was no reaction. He was screaming in his dad's face as he was watching his dad just break down and cry. Around that time, he realized that his mother wasn't there. He was now standing behind her outside the hospital's front entrance. She was in a phone booth, struggling to hold her address book still. She was in a phone booth, struggling to hold her address book still long enough to dial the number to Kiuchi's older brother. He leaned over her shoulder and tried to read the number out for her, but she kept dialing it wrong. Till eventually, she got through, crying out, "Kiuchi's dead." To which he replied in her ear, "No, I'm not. I'm not dead, Mom. I'll be okay." She didn't respond. Quickly, he thought about his sisters and was sitting in the back of a car between 2 of them, while the other was up front next to his brother-in-law who was driving. They were talking about Kiuchi's funeral, which by now was starting to get on his nerves, leading him to finally snap and yell out, "I'm not dead!" But no one heard him. So he just sat there, frustrated and listening to them go back and forth until it finally clicked. This whole time, he had been teleporting by just thinking of people.
Mm-hmm.
So he thought of his hospital room and was back in it, watching the staff still try to save him. But that got old really quick. So at this point, and I'm just going to accommodate this and say this sounds like something he would do after watching probably 15 hours of his interviews. Being slightly annoyed that no one was hearing him and feeling confident that he was on a return flight back from the afterlife. He did what anyone would do. He kind of started fucking with people. For science.
for science. Yeah, for science.
For science. That's how he always frames it. But then what happens is did you really? Was that an experiment? I don't know, bro.
Just
no, but I do have to say, I do have to say that that just a quick heads up, Joey. If I bounce out of my body first, my bodysuit first, I'm gonna do this to you.
Okay.
But yeah,
well,
so
first off, as soon as that happens, I'm just gonna start shit talking you and just be like, "Man, what a fucking dick." Which would have been funny. Which would have been funny if they were just his brother was just like, God, thank God he's dead. I hate that guy. He's like,
Jesus.
what a dick. God, and he's just like, all right, I'm haunting the shit out of this dude first. When I wake up, I'm throwing him in a river.
I'm able to slap him again. No, but so at this moment he had the thought, wait, nobody is going to believe this shit unless I do something to prove it to them later. Right?
Yeah.
Like, so he's back
For sure.
during that whole, field and flowers and crossing the river Styx, which is what that was, right? There was nobody there to give money to. He just got the boat. He's
he
like,
didn't have the pennies.
Shit, nobody's around. I'm taking this rental. At that point, meeting his dead family that he knew was dead, it had dawned on him by then that, like, he's like, I'm fucking dead. But the feeling, to think of the release, which is something he always says about, like, that moment. He's like, it was a release. It was a relief. Like, there was no, I'm slowly not feeling better. It was just as quick as, and the script I was trying to emulate was just like, it's there. It's already happening. You're in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And that's how feeling better from his state of literally being a mummy that was alive to now physically able to, like, move, let alone crawl through a muddy tunnel for God knows how many miles, right? So at that point, eventually the faded memory of where he had been was kind of coming back to him, and he was like, oh shit, I might be dead. I might be dead right now, and da-da-da-da-da, going through.
Yeah.
The lady disappears, and he's standing there staring at his body, and he's like, ah, shit. Like,
yeah. Well, I do want to ask you before we get back into it, just to kind of, well, why can cutlery teleport and not time travel?
Because it knows it's going to be cut out of this episode?
Well, it's silverware, not silver when. Come on, Gil, get with it.
Why do I always have cutlery right now, but I've never had it when you asked?
I don't know. I'm just trying to spoon feed you some good feelings.
I have cutlery, not cutler then. So.
Oh.
See, but I made that joke up.
That's good. That's real good. Good job.
Thank you.
I'm proud of you. You actually, after the episode, you went back and made that joke up and reinserted it back in this part of the episode so that you could say you made the joke up, but really you just made it up in the future to bring it back to the past.
Dialogue, everything.
Yeah, this is actually scripted. This is a scripted dialogue right here. That's
fucked
how
up
good
part.
we are.
I actually planned my whole day. Right, I'm getting aggressive with my time travel, and I'm actually, like, casually working towards achieving things going forward. It's a whole nother thing. We don't have enough time to get into that.
Why would you do that? Yeah, don't.
I don't know.
Yeah, let's not get into future plans.
It's unorthodox, but now, like I said, he had a thought at this point. So he had started to realize he was dying. Oh shit! As my
just like your
camera gets pulled down because it got tangled between my toes because I tapped them on the ground constantly. So he had the realization, or starting to come to the realization, like, wait a second, all this imagery sounds a little familiar. Oh yeah, that's my dead cousin. Oh, it's my dead uncle. I don't know who that lady is. Whatever. He was starting to realize, and he came back, saw his dead fucking body, or almost dead body, like, being resuscitated. And he's like, wait a second. Okay, hold on. If I'm back here and I'm looking at this after I just went to the place you're supposed to go when you die, that must mean that I'm on my way back. Why the fuck else would I be here right now? Which
he took the train to downtown.
Yeah, very logical. Like, it's like, yeah, that totally tracks, actually. So he's at first kind of feeling sad for, like, family and the way they're reacting and trying to reassure them. But then, you can only hear that, like, you're dead so many times if you're like, I'm not fucking dead. Everybody stop freaking out.
Yeah.
You know, like, dude, give it like 10 minutes. I'll be right there. I'll be right back. All right, I'll be right back. Just going to the gas station for some milk.
I'll be right back. The reason why he got resuscitated is because they brought in the baby doctor from the other hospital, and that baby doctor came and was just like, "Get out of my way."
Here in Tokyo.
Yep.
So yeah, at this point, he's just kind of being like, "Holy fuck, this is nuts!" Right? Fully conscious, fully present, partially feeling reality. He can hear shit, but he's realizing that, you know, nobody's fucking responding when he's yelling or anything like that. It doesn't seem like he can like pick shit up, which is something I've always wondered. How come ghosts can walk on floors, but they don't fall through them? Anyways.
It's an interesting conundrum there.
I'm just saying. Well, with this conundrum of, basically nobody's going to believe the shit unless I can figure out a way that when I come back, which it seems like I'm gonna, I can prove it to him that this actually fucking happened. / at the same time, he had been an atheist his whole life. And he was just kind of like going through all the shit at the same time. And he's like, I don't know how much of this is chemically induced hallucinations in my brain.
Chemicals in your brain kind of making it work, yeah.
He had a lot of time to think while he was sitting there staring at people trying to bring him back alive, you know, or like get his heart to start and shit again.
I mean, think it was probably very short time, to be fair, because a lot of times you get 3 minutes, probably 3, 4, 7 minutes, I think, because it's something with the brain dies after a while with not
3 to 5 minutes is like there's like an almost impossible chance that you don't have severe brain damage or like the starts of severe brain. So I had to look up when a body dies and all this other shit.
You're now a doctor.
It's carbon monoxide. So basically, carbon monoxide starts building up in your brain. I think. Point is, oxygen getting reintroduced to your brain after your lungs have stopped and your circulation's like stopped, the oxygen itself is toxic to your brain and causes brain damage.
Makes sense.
Like the entire all the systems that kind of keep us going in one direction, when they're put into reverse, do the exact opposite and decompose us really fucking fast. Like all of the shit in our bodies and everything that it does, like pretty much completely is like, and now I'm the evil version, and they just go in and start doing all the opposites. They're like, yeah, it's opposite day, you know. So
finally, we can wear that mismatched shirt.
Yeah, oxygen becomes toxic. Your lungs should not be breathing. If your heart starts, you're gonna go brain dead. Like it's just like everything gets wonky dookie. Well. Like I said, what the fuck do I do? Term. Bingo. I'm gonna fuck with my friends. Well, Kiuchi thought for a moment, well, what would be an undeniable thing that he could bring up later when he comes back and sees folks, and quickly settled on messing with his friends who were 4 hours away still living in his old hometown. Thought of one of them and was now standing in the office of the local gas station that he owned. His old friend group just sitting around, shooting the shit, laughing in this office. As he stood there listening for a little bit and kind of like laughing with them and coming back to life and seeing his old friends, even though they couldn't see him, it sunk back in eventually. Nobody can fucking see me or hear me, which sounds obvious, but I'm going to be honest. It probably takes a minute to get used to that, you know?
Probably, yeah.
It's probably not the first thought you have, right? Well,
no.
He looked out of the office window and noticed a line of cars waiting at a red light. And this gas station, pretty much the office window and the door from the office are like sidewalk and then the street, right? So that's important
not far
here. And I couldn't figure out a way to build that narratively into the script, so I'm just telling you. Clue. Well,
Clue.
like I said, he looked out the office window and noticed a line of cars waiting at a red light. Realizing he's not in his own body, he started to wonder if he could get inside of someone else's. So he climbed into one of his friend's bodies.
Okay.
It's a soul hug, just like
Creepy.
throw a hug, soul hug.
A little creepy, but okay. Yeah.
These are logical
whispers,
jumps where it's just kind of like, well,
I'm
my body's
inside
over there, and wonder if there's room for two. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. He just whispers, "I'm inside you," to his friend.
Shh. Love you. Well, he then started trying to think as loud as possible, basically, which was about as loud as his voice to everybody else. Well, he started trying to concentrate, right? With like the goal of like, can I, now that I'm literally in someone's body, can I convince the person I'm in that actually I'm driving by in one of those cars outside?
It's an
Makes
interesting
sense in a
way
moment.
to put that. Yeah.
Yeah, so he started trying to convince the person he was inside of that he, Kiuchi, was the driver of one of the cars sitting at the red lights. Or at the red light. Sitting at the red light. The friend he was possessing interrupted everyone talking and pointed to the car, telling everyone, "Hey, it's Kiuchi! Look outside! It's Kiuchi!" All stoked to see him because they hadn't seen him in forever.
That's ridiculous.
At that point, they all looked at the car, sitting probably like 10, 15 feet away, and started waving at the driver before they piled outside and began enthusiastically yelling and running towards the now horrified driver, who in the last second narrowly missed having his car fully surrounded by them. When the longest red light of his life finally turned green and he peeled out. At that point, all Kyuchi's friends were confused and just shouting fucking obscenities at this person who was driving away.
Yeah, pissed off because they thought it was their friend. Is like, God, now those are the people that are just like, God, Kyuchi's a dick. Won't even stop and say hi to. He's too good for us. He's big city now. That's what his nickname's gonna be.
I knew you were
Big
a
City
time
Kiuchi
traveler.
from now on.
Well, about that, we'll follow up on that a little bit later. But for now, it's important to note that while Kiuchi was watching all of this and probably laughing his ass off, right?
Yeah, he definitely.
Like,
he was.
You're fucking with your old bros from your hometown, and you're like, bro, you guys are doubly not gonna believe it when I tell you this one. Like,
idiots. Yeah, idiots.
I possessed Craig, and I fucking knew Craig would be easy, and they'd be like, yeah, he would be. Like everything's cool, but
Yeah.
So he's probably laughing his ass off because here's the thing: during all this, he noticed that everyone, not just the person he possessed, had gotten really close to the car and still thought the driver, who looked nothing like him, was Kiuchi. Meaning,
weird. Yeah, I was thinking about that.
If this is the kind of shit spirits can do, it kind of explains why groups of people can swear up and down that they saw something, but literally nothing is caught on camera. Swear up and down they saw something, but nothing is caught on camera. Just throwing that out there as a thought.
For sure. Yeah, that's interesting. Like,
it's trippy as fuck, dude.
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah, right? There's a lot of that. So much of that shit.
Head blown at that one.
Shit.
Kennedy. I just got Kennedy.
Here goes Boogeyman, episode 6. End of every storied. Well,
yeah, pretty much.
After carefully conducting this scientific experiment with on and inside of his friends and a random pedestrian, he started wondering what else he could do. If he could move through space so easily, maybe he could move through time. That's right, Joey. It's time travel time, baby.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. And hell then too. So, soon after the thought of moving through time occurred to him, he remembered something that had been bugging him his entire life. It was a moment from when he was 6, and quote, the moment I remembered. I'm sorry. It was a moment from when he was 6, and quote, the moment I remembered that and thought about it, I was suddenly there. And there were my sister and I, as kids in front of me, or rather, quite far below, end quote. He stood on the edge of an overhanging slope, watching himself and his sister walking along and climbing over the large, wet rocks in the river. They were almost to the exact point that always stuck out to him. Quote, I heard a voice saying, watch out! And I turned to look. But there was no one on that side of the slope, end quote. But as an adult, knowing what was about to happen became too overwhelming. He panicked. As they got closer to his childhood memory, and then he yelled, quote, watch out! At the moment, he remembered hearing when he was 6, right before, quote, a rock suddenly appeared and I pushed my sister, end quote. It's a time paradox. He had gone back in time and saved his sister from dying, but because he had already done that, he was remembering it only as a confusing moment when he had saved her. Well,
it is a time paradox.
Yes, because that means some other shit happened, and then when he died in the future and was thinking about, at some point, it was that version of Kiuchi was like, wait a fucking second, maybe I can go back in time. Man, I wonder what life would have been like with my sister, or like, I wish I could have saved her, or I should have, like, whatever the fuck would have happened that would have plagued him his whole life. So he went back.
But that never happened. But that never happened in his life.
Not in his timeline.
And so in another timeline, he couldn't time travel. Yeah.
No. In the other timeline, he could
Kiuchi.
time travel, but that Kiuchi, there's an infinite number. It just hadn't worked out that way, and some of the branches are closer than others.
It's the Kiuchi cinematic universe. Yeah,
yes.
Kiuchi cinematic universe, yes,
Kiuchi
which we have.
It's the Cutie universe.
Yeah.
So that's some shit. Well,
it's his first instance of time travel, I guess, in a way. So this is his first little dabble. Besides just playing around with his friends. He's like messing with his friends. Now he's like, now I got he dipped his toe in. He's like, I did something really crazy that I didn't even understand what I did.
Wait a cotton picking second. What's a second? Well, when he realized it was him all along, he obviously had a lot of thinking to do. And one of the later conclusions he came to, which kind of maybe expand upon a little bit in part 2, is that guardian angels are really just ourselves from the future coming back to help us. Hey, man, he's the guy going through this. I'm just like, all right. Bullshit. You have more experience in this area than I do, bro.
I think that is not such a crazy idea. I mean, granted, the idea of time travel is very interesting. But that's not such a bad, crazy idea because, you watch, movies, and movies aren't always, truthful stuff, but a lot of it has, time travel.
Most of the time. Not always.
Well, a lot of it has time paradoxes and stuff like that. Yeah. And I always think of time paradoxes as, weird because the idea... I believe in the idea that time is still almost, linear in a way that if you go back and change something, you are still in that timeline. You're not going to leave that. That's going to be your timeline even if you go forward. So
Interesting.
whatever happens in that timeline, you're going to be in that timeline.
You're a Calvinist?
No.
Do you know what
not-
Calvinism is?
Yeah, Calvinism is
It's a
you're
predestination
predestined for stuff. Yeah, predestined for stuff.
And
but if you go,
you just
but if
said
you go
that no
back,
matter what you do, you're still in that timeline.
No. What I mean is, if you go back,
We're going
say you
to
go
get
back and
into
you
a
kill-
fight about Calvinism in the middle of this episode.
I don't believe in Calvinism. I don't think that's true. I don't think you're predestined for anything.
Okay,
I
I'm
meant
just
that
saying
if
you're
you go
flirting
back
with it.
in that, you go back in that timeline and you kill somebody in your timeline in that life. But you go to the future. You're going to stay in the timeline that you created. That's going to be the branch timeline.
We're stuck.
You're not
in a
predestined
universe.
to be in that.
We're stuck in a universe, but we're not like
that you created.
Stuck within decisions.
No,
Would that
the
be a
decisions
better way
don't
of
matter.
putting
Yeah,
it?
the decisions you can change. Yes, the decisions can change. You can do
That's
whatever you
what-
want. You just stay in that timeline because you killed that person.
If we use up
so
all
when
the
you go
oil
to
on
the future,
Earth, there's no more oil. That's it, bro. You can't hop over to another timeline, take all their oil, and bring it back, unless shit. We need to delete that.
But then you.
Time
But if
thief.
you did that, you go to another timeline. You bring it to the future. You have oil. Time Cat.
Time Cat.
That's gonna be how we. That's the new movie where Battlecat Report is now producing. TM.
We
Time
can't
Cat.
release this.
It's almost like Time Cop, but
I'll go back and
way better. Way better.
When I edit this, I'll go back in time, make sure no one knows. Well,
perfect. TM.
So whole guardian angel thing, right? Well, either way, we ain't done yet. In fact, Joey, do you know what it is still? Time travel time, baby! So soon after the riddle of that moment came to be realized, Kiuchi took a step further. Quote, "Then I wondered about the future, and I suddenly went to the future. There I was in a large tatamami room, a middle-aged 40-year-old man talking about the importance of the earth to a group of people," end quote. He'd gone on to explain the clothes he was wearing, the details of the room, yada, yada, yada. But we'll maybe come around to that when we have to get to it. Right now, what stood out the most to him was not only that he was still alive in his 40s. Again, remember the condition he left a little bit ago? So seeing yourself healthy, was it 18 years later? It's just like, holy shit,
He almost got pulled down the well and was almost dead. And,
he was dead passing. He wasn't actually dead.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Close.
So yeah, seeing yourself healthy and also standing, that's cool. And doing cool shit when until that point his entire life in terms of adulthood had been basically being abused by the Japanese Air Force to work horrible fucking hours and shifts that led to him even seeing this fucking future. His shit was fucked, right? And he was just like, oh my god, life's getting better? What? Whoa,
what is this?
What? Yeah. I'm healthy? People are listening? This
Life
is
doesn't
nuts.
do this.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
That part of the page is totally missing. Well, yeah, in that, he started to realize that he's not just going to survive, but actually do well in life.
Gonna thrive.
And it started to get to him. He started to think about in realizing he's not just going to survive, but do well in life, it started to get to him. He started to think about how his self in his actual present state. And Joey, do you know what that means? It's
He's
time
gonna
travel
fix
time,
himself?
baby. Now he's standing in the
Of
hospital
course.
room. The doctors were gone,
Ooh,
and
okay.
only his aunt was there. Every other time he
Loyal
was
aunt?
popping back, fucking chaos in the room.
Yeah.
But now it's just his aunt. His dad's not there. His mom's not there. Nobody's there.
Mm-hmm.
She was quietly praying next to his now pale, dead body.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing this, he decided to climb back inside and was immediately struck with intense pain before losing consciousness.
Yeah, he's like, no thanks.
As he later
No
came
thanks,
to,
okay.
back to his weakened state, his eyes were already partially opened. He's a dead corpse. I really want to emphasize this. This is going to sound exaggerated, but I'm coming back around, trust me. He's a dead corpse, and, like, fun fact, when you die, your eyes do kind of, like, pop open a little bit, and they're not just going to stay closed if you try to close them.
Well, yeah, you have to close them. When people die, you close their eyes.
Yeah, but they don't fully
Respect.
close. I'm trying to tell you, like, when you go to, like, a morgue or a mortician, like, they sew your eyes closed. They make it look like they're not sewn closed, but every dead body you've ever seen at a funeral, a bunch of orifices are sewn closed. Yeah, because the body, it's just like, I ain't got to try anymore, bro, but, you know.
Just let's go.
So looking through the small, sliver of vision that he had as a literal dead corpse, right?
Yeah.
He could see his aunt slowly bringing a spoon filled with rice water up to his mouth. And she gently poured it in. Just ever so fragilely said, quote, yummy. At which point, his aunt fucking screamed. Quick side note here, in the Shinto faith, quote, immediately after death, relatives moisten the deceased person's lips with water, a practice known as matsugo no mizu, which means water of the last moment, end quote. She was in the middle of performing last rites over his dead body.
He's like, yum. More.
And he just was like, yummy. And she's like, what the fuck? Everybody was out of the room except for her because she was performing last rites for him.
The last rites, yeah. Good God. And he's just like, fuck that.
And he's like, I love rice water. Like,
yeah,
so,
I love it. It's my favorite.
I don't care how committed you are to the faith. At that fucking point, you're just like, Jesus Christ. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. It flips the bowl out of her hands, probably.
That's horrifying. You were in the room with a dead body and it starts talking to you.
Zombie apocalypse. You're either that or you're going crazy.
Well, after basically being like, oh, fuck, and just like screaming, she then started yelling, quote, oh, Tsuruhiko has come alive again, end quote. Sorry. Anyway, she started yelling, quote, oh, Tsuruhiko's come. Tsuruhiko's. Anyway, she started yelling, quote, Tsuruhiko's come alive again, end quote. And at this point, already running to the room since her first blood-curdling scream, the staff was now rushing in. Faded ink. The staff was now rushing in and seeing he was fucking alive.
Oh my God.
To say they were amazed would be an understatement, because among the shocked staff who had piled into the room at this point and were seeing Kiuchi alive and breathing was the pulmonologist who had recorded his lungs as having stopped, the neurologist who saw that Kiuchi's brain was dead, and the lead doctor who, after confirming that he had no pulse, declared him deceased 30 minutes earlier.
Damn. Yeah, that's dead.
Kiuchi had been officially registered as dead for a full 30 minutes before he came back to life. And to this day, he's still the only one in Japan's history to have ever been declared deceased in a hospital and then resuscitated. And after
Damn.
he came back to life, the staff refused, and like, so much credit to them, the staff refused to let him die again. They immediately grabbed his ass and began performing what would go on to become 10 hours of non-stop emergency surgery that not only stabilized Kiuchi, but also successfully treated the very thing that had killed him, making Kiuchi the only person to have ever survived this incredibly rare syndrome. And when they finally finished, they had to pull all of his organs out of his stomach and recombobulate them and fix all that shit and sew his ass up. After his body had, blood was starting to fucking go. His body was in not quite to the first real stages of, decomposing, but it was getting, splotches were showing.
Close. He's getting close. Yeah.
They're working on a fucking cadaver, and they had no clue at that point that they were like, oh my god, medical school was very accurate to what I would need to do later in life.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah.
They fucking did it. Because I think at that point, they were just like, all right,
this is a miracle.
Fuck it.
Of some
we
sort.
know he's going to die in
literally
5 minutes if we don't go as hard fucking core as we can. And apparently, because we're looking at him talking after we all know he died, he's supposed to be here, so we're just going to fucking go in and do all the shit that we would normally... They went in hard, and they fucking actually did it. It was... I don't know. That shit's crazy as fuck to me, but... So
if I woke up in that hospital... Yeah. If I woke up in the hospital and they, the person's like, no, you're brain dead, I'd do a little gun point at him, wink at the doctor, and be like, I'm not brain dead, I'm just dumb. And be like, just time of death now.
You're not brain dead. I'm just dumb.
Yeah. Time of death now, and the doctor just chokes me to death and put him out of his misery.
Doctor's note: sick AF. There you go, sir.
Sick burn. Sick burn.
Well, yeah. Kiuchi's the only person in history to survive this shit, literally ever. I still want to argue that syndrome has a 100% kill rate, because technically it killed him one time. And
for 30 minutes,
finished,
he died.
I'm just saying, and when they finished, Kiuchi started talking, telling the exhausted staff, which had been there since the point of him first going into cardiac arrest and needing to be resuscitated, and the long process that they tried to go through to him being dead, and then probably just smoking a cigarette, being like, fuck, god damn it, and then hearing the blood curdling scream of his aunt running back in and seeing this motherfucker alive, being like, holy shit. And 10 hours, they had a day. Not quite as bad as being air traffic control, but a day.
I was about to say
And so, as they were sitting there, post up, everybody fucked up, completely exhausted, but just literally in
mentally
shock.
Gone.
Kiuchi started talking and started telling everybody what he had just seen, where he went, and what he did. And in the front row seats were the doctors who knew he had died. They were glued to their seats, absolutely mesmerized by everything he had to say, because they knew for a fact beyond a shadow of a doubt, they had just seen a ghost become human.
Yeah.
Next week, the timeline changes, but the outcomes will be the same as Kiuchi recovers. The world reacts, and he dies 2 more times. If you like this episode, please, because we do this because we want to do this full time. Please, if you could,
We love it.
we'd really sincerely appreciate it, though, if you shared it with a friend. 2 friends would be, oh my god, that'd be like Kiuchi level, like miracle. But like, if you just shared it with one friend, hey man, that's staying awake while vomiting blood and blood diarrhea. I should probably stop now. The point is,
just jump
please,
out of your body. Jump out of your body. Control
jump
your
into
friends.
your friend's body. Subscribe them to the Blood
Thank you.
Cat Report.
Yes. Wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify,
but
anywhere.
We would appreciate some shares, and that would be dope. And if you made it this far, I feel safe asking. But next week, I'm very excited. Part of the reason why all this shit, and this is just a note to the folks, to the real motherfuckers that made it this far. Next week, which is the episode's going to be late because I'm releasing this shit so late, because believe it or not, like that wasn't a joke at the intro, it is a bitch to organize the life adventures and multiplicating scenarios that get changed of a time traveler's life. There's a reason why every time traveler movie is always like almost like first person, or the camera's like glued to their shoulder, right? Because if you're outside of that, it gets really hard. Anyways,
nothing makes
next
sense.
week.
Yeah.
Coming slightly late next week, the script's going to be different, and I think that y'all are going to like it. It's going to be different, it's going to be fun, and like I told you at the beginning, it's going to replicate the experience of time travel. Now, if you'll excuse me, I really need to go to sleep. We love you all, and we hope that you have a great whatever the fuck you're doing in life and days. And, hey, man, one long muddy total leads to a black and white world. But sometimes the person that you later find out was your deceased aunt, she'll help you out. Bye.
Bye.